Up next is a fireside chat with Daniel Robson, Chief Editor of IGN Japan, Dylan Cuthbert, CEO of Q Games, and Baiyon, Director and Music Creator at Q Games. They'll be talking about what makes Japan's game scene so unique, so let's have a listen.
Hi everybody, I'm Daniel Robson from IGN Japan. You are joining us at Gamescom Asia in Singapore for the Gamescom Asia studio. And welcome to our panel, Land of the Rising Fun, what makes Japan's game scene so unique. Here to join me for this fireside chat, as they call it, although I think if this was in Japan, we'd be doing it maybe at an izakaya or something like that, is Dylan Cuthbert, CEO and founder of Q Games, and Baiyon, who is the creative director and multimedia creator at Q Games. Welcome to the panel, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Would you like to give a quick introduction, Dylan?
Yeah, okay. So I'm Dylan Cuthbert, and I've been running Q Games for the last 21 years, and made about 25 games over that period as well. Some of them have been really big hits, some haven't, but that's luck. And basically, just I really enjoy making games, and I'm really enjoying Singapore. It's my first time here, so pretty cool so far. Good food.
Awesome.
Hello, I'm Baiyon, and I'm multimedia creator and multimedia artist, and also working as a creative director at Q Games. I'm working as a musician and artist in over 20 years as a freelance, and we collaborated, Q Games and Dylan collaborated the games called Pixel Junk Eden in 2008. And since then, I collaborated with a bunch of the games, the indie game industry, the indie games, computer soundtracks and stuff like that. And then, officially, I joined the Q Games 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, about 5, maybe 6 years
as
ago.
a creative director, and now I'm here with Dylan to enjoy the Gamescom Asia in Singapore.
Amazing, thank you.
Also, your first time as well.
Oh yeah. Singapore is the first time.
And do you like the food?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
We're all going to go home 3 times.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's very good.
And so, obviously, Q Games is a game studio based in Kyoto in Japan.
Yes.
Best known for the Pixel Junk series, of course, and most recent release being the Tomorrow Children Phoenix Edition, which is a re-release of the originally a PS4 game that's now out for PS4, PS5.
Yep.
It's an awesome, immersive, online but also offline kind of community.
Yeah. Very unique kind of experience.
Yeah, it's a wonderful game. And since all 3 of us are based in Japan, you guys are in Kyoto, I'm in Tokyo, and we've all come to be working in Japan from completely different parts. I thought it would be really interesting to talk together about what it is that makes the game industry, the game scene in Japan unique. Not necessarily the best in the world, not necessarily
Yeah. Just a little bit,
but
different.
At very least different than anything else, I think. First of all, so I think Baiyon, we'll start with you. You were born and raised in Japan, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're from Kyoto originally?
I'm from Takarazuka. It's a Hyogo prefecture, which is next to the Osaka, Hyogo, Kyoto. Yeah. So the thinking about to live in Kyoto, it was a reason that I decided to go into the art university in the Shiga prefecture, which is next to the Kyoto. And our family had the kind of property in Kyoto, so that was the reason. So when I speak into the bunch of my indie friends, even Dylan or Kyoto peeps, and I also feel that kind of interesting. It's because living in Kyoto for me is not my choice, but people around me, the Dylan or any other indie friends, is that they have very specific reason or some reason to live in there. So maybe they know good part of the Kyoto more than me, because it was always not my choice. But I like it, so I'm living there. It's over 20 years. But if I'm thinking of that, it's maybe he's better to explain it.
Actually, and you still get lost in Kyoto, don't you?
Oh yeah. I'm terrible for direction, so yeah, true. Yeah.
Okay. And Dylan, so you've been in and out of Japan for the last 40 odd years. So.
Well, 30.
30.
30.
Yeah.
But I first came when I was 18.
Yeah.
And I didn't know.
1989.
I didn't know. 1990 it was, but I didn't know what was going on. Maybe. I don't know if Japan was a separate country or anything. I didn't have any information before I came.
Is there any a video or just animation, TV show or?
Oh, back then?
Yeah.
There was an animation called Gatchaman.
Oh yeah, right.
That was shown.
Was it shown on the UK TV show?
And UK TV, and also Son Goku. the Monkey Magic
right,
TV series was also shown. And those are the two main things that I knew about Japan.
Ah.
So I thought everybody was going to be doing this, to like make magic and stuff like that. But no one was doing that at all. But I really enjoyed it, and I came for a week, with work, talking to Nintendo, and just really fell in love with the place instantly. First time, it was just everything was so exciting, and there were game centers everywhere.
Oh,
like
everywhere. But there's not so many now, but because they're sort of bigger. But back in the early 90s, in the center of Kyoto, every 100 meters there was a game center. An arcade game center.
So when was that?
Early 90s.
Okay.
Like you walk down Kawaramachi, the main street in Kyoto, and there would be like one every 100 meters on either side of the road, or just down an alley. And I used to basically like doing a pub crawl. I'd do a game center crawl, and you could just I'd go to as many as I could.
Patrolling.
Yeah, and go to each one, right?
Even to me, this at the time that the game center was really scary place for me. And even at the school and the teacher was
scary.
Just don't go in there because it's that the Yankee that they have.
delinquent youths who are just in there to
going to the toilet big.
maybe start trouble a little bit.
Yeah, just if I have the change in my pocket, but just they punch us and just take it.
Your money.
Yeah, but it's funny you mentioned that because back when I was doing that, I would mention it to people at Nintendo, and they said, "Oh, you go into all the gaming? Oh, that's a bit dodgy, isn't it? A bit dangerous or whatever."
Yeah.
And,
money.
and like, there was nothing. It was like it was just great. Yeah, it was just great fun. No, it wasn't. Yeah, it was me taking the money. Yeah. No, and
it's because maybe you were foreigner, I think.
No, not that, but it was like it wasn't that. It was more. I think it began to change. Like even at that time, especially in that central area.
In the early 90s, right?
Yeah, and it was actually fine. Like,
it was the most intense era for me, though.
For you, yeah. Maybe if you're younger. Well, I was young though. So,
I think maybe also the allure of video games is worth braving the potential for some violence or just.
And also that there was the more dark.
Yeah.
People smokes and just very dark and just.
there's a bit of that.
And it's getting better and better after that, but back then it was kind of scary place.
Yeah, I never. So in the UK it was a lot worse because the game centres were mixed with gambling.
Okay, yeah.
And so you had real slot machines and stuff alongside like Outrun.
Oh, we had that too.
Like Outrun, but you have medal games.
Medal games, it's not about money, but yes.
In the UK, it's like real money, like, and so you have all these gambling addicts like pumping in their pound coins while smoking, and right next to Sega's Outrun. And so you'd be playing Outrun, and there's some guy sitting next to you, like pumping money into a slot machine. It's a really weird experience. So maybe that's also a reason why when I came to Japan and saw the game centers here, they're all like clean, and there's like not really. I mean, there's some use and stuff, that hanging around, but it wasn't that bad compared to what it was like in the UK. So maybe it's a comparison, like it's a different step.
I think that at the time I prefer to play the games not at game center. I mean, just when I wanted to play some Street Fighter 2 or something. It's always the arcade cabinet by the Neo Geo. It's
I remember that.
Front of the game shops.
And
the standing like
all those little ones.
Yeah.
What's the one with the monsters?
King of Monsters.
I used to play that. There was one.
I burned my finger.
Yeah.
And they'd
have them just outside the little shops, wouldn't they?
Yeah. And I remember that the really good story about it is that when I been to that shops and I just tried to play the King of Monsters or whatever. And that the Kodomo no Hi in the Japanese, it's for the
Children's Day.
Yeah. And I've got the money from my parents, and just since they never do anything for me. So I just got the money and then just been there and just tried playing games. And there was like a 5-year-old kid was trying to play the game. But he's this size. The cabinet screen is here. So he was he inserted the coins and started playing the games. I mean, Street Fighter 2, obviously. He chose maybe Dalsim or something, and but he can't see the screen. So he just playing how do you get? Or just
enjoying the sound.
Enjoy the sound of his imagination. And I saw a video game. This is so cool,
Sure.
So what was the? So I've got a question for you. So what was the first ever? I've never asked this to you before. So what was the first ever game center, arcade game that you played?
I played.
Yeah. Which one can you remember? The first ever one. The first ever. I know. I can remember mine.
Very hard question.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, like it must have had an impression, right?
It could be.
Must have had some sort of impression.
It could be Tetris, but it could be fighting games.
But it would have been before Tetris, right? So it must have been.
It's already.
You must have been quite young, right?
Yeah.
So
But
how old were you? Like the first ever one you played. How old were you?
you mean the first Tetris?
No, an arcade
Your
game.
first
An arcade game.
experience.
Like putting 100 yen or 50 yen into.
100 yen is too expensive.
Yeah, right. So it was 100 yen for
50
three.
yen
It was
or
100 yen for 3 goes, right? Back in those days.
oh, two.
Yeah.
Maybe I was really loved the Neo Geo fighting games
So
mostly.
do you remember that? So was that one of your first ones? Like,
Oh no, I don't remember.
the-
But most of the arcade games at that era, I played everything. I say.
Okay.
Oh, Flying Power Disc.
Flame Power Disc, yes.
um,
What's the English title?
that?
Hyper English title. Hyperdisc?
No,
Flying disc?
something jammers.
Windjammers.
Windjammers.
Oh, okay.
Or something like that.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My first was the first one I actually put money into was Pac-Man.
Ah, okay.
Pac-Man, okay.
First ever one I put money into was Pac-Man.
Yeah.
And it was so expensive.
Yeah. he eats your money.
It was so it does, yeah. Well, each one of those things is
Those are
like
the
10. It's like 10
yeah,
pence. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for me it was Double Dragon.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Which, I remember going to the, not even in an arcade, there was a local restaurant that had a Double Dragon
Oh,
arcade.
okay,
It was seen in the restaurant.
yeah.
And so I would always want to go and eat at that restaurant because they had Double Dragon.
Yeah.
And I'd just disappear from the dinner table. And,
For me, Pac-Man was in my local swimming pool.
okay.
They just
yeah.
had one Pac-Man unit, and I was like, "What's this? It's magic. What's this thing?"
Cool.
Let's get back to the topic at hand.
Yeah.
For me as well. So it's my route to end up in Japan was that I've been a journalist for a long time, over 20 years. But originally I was writing about music, and I was writing more and more about music that came from Japan. And in
Okay.
those days, there was no
Okay.
YouTube, there was no iTunes, nothing like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
existed
yeah,
yet.
yeah.
This is sort of 16, 17, 18 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I decided to go over there and be closer to the source. But the longer I've been in Japan, of course, video games are such a major part of
Yeah.
Japanese pop culture. I've always loved video games since I was a kid. So, now that's become my main thing. And I'm curious to know from you guys something that really stands out to you that you love about the game scene in Japan today.
I think really the big difference between like today and maybe like say 10 or 20 years ago is that there's much more of like a sort of grassroots kind of resurgence of like a love for the smaller games, not just the big games. And it used to be for a long time that almost all the players, all the gamers would just be buying whatever the big games were. But now they're taking more of an interest in like these subculture and niche games, and I really like that. And I think that's a really good sign.
I agree. I feel like Japan has become a very mature market.
Yeah.
Everybody plays games. And,
Yeah.
grandparents play games with their kids, with their grandkids.
Yeah.
And because of that, we're definitely seeing like a much wider diversity of games that people want to play and are available.
Yeah.
You look at the ranking on the Switch anytime, which is the biggest platform in Japan.
Yeah.
And it's full of smaller indie games. And some of them can be like a big smash hit.
And it never used to be. So I mean, I like the fact that it has there's this big wide spread of taste that has come about now, which there used to be in the early PlayStation days. There was one period where, and you collect those discs only from the PlayStation days, but there was one period where there were lots of really interesting games, but it kind of died out around the middle of the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 period.
Right.
And for some reason, but in the past few years, it's really sort of coming back, and I like that. I think that's really good.
I was thinking about say exactly the same thing.
Okay.
But it's true. When the Eden was came out at the time, there's not so many people. Picture Eden. There was not so many people knows about what is indie game. It's not necessary to be the indie games, but people don't know about what the potential the game has as a medium. And there's a bunch of unique game, but people only know about the Super Mario or some big games on just a TV advertisement.
Yeah.
But now people slightly more knows about appreciate it to small boutique types of games, and it's a great thing because you guys definitely know that the expression is like yoge
Yes.
back then,
I
and
remember that.
right, and I always
You don't hear that anymore. You don't,
You know, there is like
it's not as bad as it used to be.
Bayon's game. It's the kind of yoge. It sounds like it's good things, but also bad things too.
Your game meaning it's like a Western style.
Western.
Yeah. So it's like
as opposed to a Japanese style.
it could be interesting, but buggy, rough game, or story is crap, or just that kind of things.
Yeah, there's like a little bit of like weird discrimination, right?
Yeah.
In the word yoga, but it's not that bad. But it's like sometimes it means it's a good thing because some people really love yoga,
Yeah.
like the Western games, but there is a little bit of that. So it's like a quick sort of it can be dismissive in some ways.
Yeah.
Which is, but recently I haven't heard that word for actually quite a while. Like
And it's disappeared.
Yes,
It's disappeared.
It used to like be all the time.
Yeah,
didn't it?
yoge. But now it's just an indie game, or it's not necessary to be an indie, but indie games word it came out and then just yoge was disappear, and then now it's much more like a positive.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. So that's a really good change.
Yeah.
And Dylan sort of slightly alluded to it before, but Baiyon, you have a series on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
Called
Crazy series.
Game
Great.
Disc Beauty.
Yeah.
Where you take video game discs, CDs, like PlayStation games from Japan, and you take these beautiful photos of the artwork and then present them as a series of photos on Instagram. Can you tell us a little about why you do that?
Sure. So I was thinking about to do something to showing my collection a long time ago, but I never tried to do it because it's kind of hard to explain it. But as an artist, I didn't want to use someone's creation to sell my name, that kind of thing, But one of my friends, David O'Reilly, who made a mountain and everything.
Yes.
When he came over to my house and he said, "Oh, this is a part of your creation. The correction is a part of your creativity, and also, in fact, that is what you make games or just art or music, whatever, is collection of the things that you love. It's the same. So be proud." He told me that. So okay, I might can try, and also. When I started that game distributing, and then I realized there's so many things that Japanese PS1 disc. I mean, in general, Japanese game disc has a way better design if you compare to the Western disc.
Yes.
Western disc has just only one screen, but Japanese has a very unique colors and just multiple colors and stuff. So people are starting to really appreciate that. So I just am pushing forward, and also it pushed me to collecting the stuff as well. So it's always really fun.
It gives you a good excuse to keep collecting.
Of course, and
Baiyon is quite a collector, of anything really. Like anything that's really cool or eclectic.
Yeah.
That's just one element I think of Bayon's multiple collections.
I think the other DJ. So I love the collecting stuff, and I wanted to find some the hidden treasures. Nobody knows, nobody discovered. But in these days, it's the price is gonna be too expensive and too crazy. So you can see that my game Disc Beauty and some of the games that I bought maybe several years ago, but now they're cheaper, like 1,000 yen or so. But now it could be 50,000 yen, 100,000 yen.
Right,
it's kind of crazy. Yeah.
So it's a good opportunity if people want to see the beautiful PlayStation
Please take a look.
game design,
I hope you enjoyed it.
Even Bayon's shirts are part of his collection. So
Right.
He searched out this rare shirt maker, right?
That's true though.
It's
that's
a really
true,
good
though.
story,
'Cause
actually.
I have the maybe shirt, even just a T-shirt. Which I almost never wear anymore.
Right,
But I already have like a 300 T-shirt.
Yeah, you can't get rid of it.
Shirt is just
It's the same,
150.
yeah.
So when I go into out for the business trip like this, but I always take let's say the socks about the 15 or so, put into the table on the hotel room, and just I need to select each one in the morning, and that's my ritual,
Part of your expression.
It's part of
Okay.
Love it.
So definitely everybody check out on Instagram Game Disc Beauty. It's a great account. So we talked a little bit about indie games in Japan already. Q Games with the Pixel Junk series, you were in there before the term indie game even really was a thing.
Especially on consoles.
For sure. Yeah.
It was just beginning to form outside of consoles, but on consoles we were like pretty much first in there, I think.
Yeah. And you were also involved in starting up Bit Summit, which is an indie game, a very excellent indie game once a year in Kyoto, in Japan. So the sort of the rise of indie games globally has been Japan was a little behind the ball apart from you guys, I suppose, a few other places. But now we have this very thriving indie scene in Japan. What do you think about the rise of Japan's indie scene?
I think it's been great, really. I mean, the best thing about it, I think, is that we can actually get to meet all those indie developers that were in Japan originally. They were there, but they weren't really expressing themselves fully. So you can, they had like their little niche kind of things, but they weren't really in the forefront. So they'd never get picked up by the press or anything. But now, because of Bit Summit and just the fact indies are so much more an in thing now, it means that they can get picked up by the press and they get interviews and they get to talk to a much wider range of people than they'd normally get to talk to. And it also means we can get to talk to them as well. And we've forged like so many friendships and stuff because of Bit Summit, basically, kind of just opening those doors. And we never really got that from like other shows or the older, the more sort of corporate sort of marketed kind of shows before. And this is because the Bit Summit show is really all about like the developers themselves, right? So all the developers are sitting there showing off their games. It's not a marketing person or, it's actually the developer right there. And it means you can walk around, you can talk to all these developers and just get to really know them. And you have so many common things you can talk about. It's great, in Japanese or English. And I think that's been really good. And it's also taught quite a lot of these indie developers in Japan. It's also taught them that maybe they should learn English as well. So I've heard from a few people that because of Bit Summit, they actually started to learn English just so they could reach or speak to more people,
communicate with their audience directly.
That's totally true though, because even Japanese people or Western people ask me about just where you live. 100% in Japan. I never live in outside the country, so I always got my English in my just experience. So, that's true. And also that to me the Bit Summit is it sounds like a kind of joke, but the best thing is that the venue of the Bit Summit is just a few minutes away from my house. Super close. It sounds like a joke, but it's true because think about the ZDC. It's a great place, and also I never ever know about that ZDC before to release the Eden. ZDC was asking me brought me to do some sessions there, and I discovered so many friends there. I thought that I'm not alone. I can be part of here, and just I was so proud of that too. But at the same time, I saw. Look at my not game friend, the game industry friend, the normal friend.
Normal friends.
Normal friends has the real good friends who can share all the things next door. But to me, no. I have to take a flight, take a jet lag, and just take a flight just over 12 hours and just going there. Finally, I can talk to the things that I love to the people who I love. But now it's just 5 minutes away. So it's a great feeling,
So the hurdle is much lower. It's easier.
No jet lag.
No jet lag.
You could even go in your pajamas if you're still drive out of bed.
That's why it's so important. An event like this, Gamescom Asia here in Singapore, or to have these events that are sort of local to different people. Different people can be involved in, with the lower hurdle to entry. And
it's very important.
So it happened near me. It's very important change to me.
Okay. So next, I'd like to ask you guys about the normalization and the rise of the otaku in Japan.
Okay.
So, otaku is a word that is sort of synonymous with a nerd or a geek in English. In Japan, it used to be very much had a very negative connotations. It was like a word that nobody wanted to be called an otaku. Whereas nowadays, people are much more likely to wear that as a badge of pride. If they're crazy about video games or they're crazy about pop idol music like AKB48 or something, they're much more likely to refer to themselves and each other as otaku, and it's not like a shameful thing anymore. Which is similar in a lot of ways to the rise of the sort of nerd culture in the West with the rise of Marvel, a huge success, mainstream success of that kind of thing. From your perspective, maybe Baiyon, having been there from the days when otaku was a word that you did not want to be called, and it's how do you feel that's changed over the years, the perception of somebody having gaming as their hobby?
It's interesting because history-wise in Japan, it's kind of opposite because otaku was kind of shame at that time, and then but think about it, just I'm synth geek, but nobody called me that synth otaku.
Oh, like synthesizers.
Yeah. Or just music otaku, of course, a DJ,
Yeah.
For kind of like a kind of cool culture, I don't want to use that word, but cool culture, we say you're a nerd or you're a geek more than otaku.
Yes.
And the Western people speaking, using that otaku is just the next level or next generation of the nerd and the geek. So in Japan, situation is kind of opposite. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because it's nerd is a cooler than otaku sounds like.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if still people using otaku in Japan, but I think it's just my opinion, but it has the meaning of the kind of shame, little bit.
Yeah. It's still a bit dark, isn't it? I think it's still a little bit dark, isn't it?
Yeah,
Otaku.
and because it's
Still not quite, not like the West where it's gone quite positive. It's still a bit borderline.
Yeah, let me be a little more specific. What is shame? What is the shame of the part of that? Is the collecting games or playing some like a dating game or something. It's not about that. It's more about the like a lack of the skilled communication.
Yeah, social difficulty.
Yeah,
social difficulty.
Social difficulty. That's a part of it, of the shameness of the otaku. So it's not just about the like a dating game or just the playing some like a weird games, or it's not about that. More like how you communicate to the people.
Yes.
So Baiyon, do you consider yourself an otaku? I mean, parts of what you do are there is a crossover, right?
Yeah.
And for me as well,
obsessive personality.
and definitely for Daniel, it's definitely a crossover.
I think so.
Yeah.
And
So maybe we can turn it, start making it more positive.
Sure.
I definitely feel like it has become a more positive, or at least less negative.
Yeah, it's become less negative. I think that's the way to say it.
Feel it just sounds like a kind of little part of the hobby or something, because let's think about it. Just like if there's a word like otaku, professional otaku.
Yeah.
Sounds weird.
It does sound weird.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. So
Okay.
it's more of a passion.
I mean, otaku obviously is a similar connotation to hikikomori, right? Because I mean, the word
Hikikomori means somebody who never leaves.
who never leaves the house. But otaku, I mean, the kanji, the word, is like, isn't it? It's like it's a similar meaning. I mean,
Yes.
it means someone who stays in the
homebound
house.
person.
Yeah, homebound person.
It's a different things, but it could be happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just being in the house and forever. That means that you have the tons of time. So you digging some stuff,
Yeah.
or you getting afraid about to communicate to someone.
Yeah.
So you don't want to directly communicate to someone.
Yeah.
That means that you want to do like MMO or that kind of like just dating game or something. So in
so
fact that
social difficulty.
Yeah. In fact that it could be, but it's not the same. Yeah.
I definitely feel like at the very least, those people who are of that persuasion, there is now a community for that.
Yeah.
You can happily go to, for example, if you're an otaku and obsessive of idol music, pop idol music,
Yeah.
there are venues, where AKB48 group perform every night, or the Denpagumi perform every night, or whatever,
right.
that you can go and be around other people who are immersed
really-
in that world too.
yeah.
And of course, online, it's much easier to communicate in those ways. And those groups are sort of marketed at and targeted more directly as well through mainstream, advertising and that kind of thing. Which
So do you think?
they have good strong buying power as well, because they spend their money on their hobbies.
Yeah.
So do you think social media has helped that then?
Without question.
Because I mean, before there would be no ways to kind of organize or or even target those kind of people.
without
Right?
question.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting.
I think so, yeah. Okay, let's move on. So I think one thing that really marks games in Japan, obviously all kinds of games come out of Japan, but I think one thing that is quite a strong uniting factor is the obsession and the care that's paid to world building. So sekaikan means like the world of the game.
Yeah, the created world.
The characters, the setting, the scenario. These are very, very important elements in most or many Japanese games, from Dark Souls, where you have all this lore embedded in the game, to Super Mario Brothers, where it's a very colorful, immersive place to play. Why do you think it is, or how do you feel that Japan expresses the world building of its games differently?
I think it is, to me at least, there's no boundary. And because the Dark Souls, for example, if you don't know about anything about that game, do you think it's a Japanese game? I don't think so.
It could be a Western game.
Yeah, right?
I mean, the setting is very much Western high fantasy.
Yeah.
When you play it, there's parts of it you realize that like it's a Japanese game. Like there's some decisions and design decisions that probably wouldn't be made in the West that you kind of spot when you play it, which I find quite interesting. But in general, though, the sekaikan, the scenario, the world setting could be quite easily made in the West. Except maybe perhaps it's a bit more gothic than if it was in the West, it'd be a bit less gothic. It would be more fantasy and less of that sort of gothic feel.
But thinking about this, the word itself, sekaikan, is such an interesting word.
Yeah.
It's so broad.
Yeah.
So broad that actually the Ozaki Sekaikan, that singer, his name is Sekaikan. His last name is Sekaikan. It's because such a weird word. He can express himself because if your name is Sekaikan, sounds like a kind of like you very dedicated to something, but it's so weird to hear. Yeah. So how do you say that in English?
Sekaikan?
Yeah.
Sekaikan is always a difficult word to translate because the direct translation is worldview, but that's a little bit wrong. In French, you have mise en scène, which is again a similar kind of, but it's like the world, the setting, the environment.
The world setting.
World setting, but also it could be different for each person, I think, because it's sekaikan for me it's more about the texture.
Yeah, the texture.
Yeah, more texture. Yeah.
And for me as well,
It's a soft or hard or something.
texture is also as a whole, like even of the game.
Yeah. Not about on the surface, but it just
like the
feeling you have when you're in that world. Yeah.
When I first learned the word sekaikan when I was learning Japanese, I found it interesting that we didn't have an equivalent word in English that kind of that matches up to the exact same, because it's broad, it's a broad meaning, but Japanese is very very context-based as a language. So if you're talking about sekaikan amongst similar-minded people, they know what you're talking about. And if you talk to other people in Japanese about something unrelated, and then the meaning of sekaikan will change depending on the people.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, there's a lot of Japanese words like that help with game design.
Yes.
Yeah. I think think about it, the sekaikan, it could be used for those words for the owarai as well. Comedy.
Owarai, like a comedy.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what it's called in English, but tsukomi and the bokeh.
It's like you have, generally in Japan, rather than having one guy doing stand-up comedy, it's usually a group of two people. Yeah. And you have one person who's the straight guy and the other person who's the full guy.
Yeah.
The sort of the serious guy and the stupid. Foolish guy.
So both guys are making a sekaikan because it's if Dylan or you said something stupid, it's not enough, right? So I have to say nande yanen or just you joke, right? I have to say something and say what are you talking about? So
what are you talking about?
You say something strange and then people can understand, oh, this is funny. So it makes them like a sekaikan as well. And
in English, British comedy at least, there's a similar tradition of two people.
Right.
Like Hugh and Laurie or Hale and Pace from way back. But there's a lot of these like combinations.
Yeah.
Is there any
very
like
similar.
A very, very specific punchline, like a nandiyane?
No, each one, they'd have their own one. So each one, they make their own punchlines.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's interesting about Japanese comedy. The nandiyane is just so broad.
Standard. It's a standard punchline.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Okay.
But that's part of the sekaikan though, in a way.
Yeah, I definitely think at the very least, when I was a kid growing up in England, I never really thought, I was playing video games since I was very small, and I came from, like you, from the Spectrum, playing British-made games, then straight onto the Sega Master System, and I didn't know, but everything I was playing was made in Japan. By Sega, by Capcom, by Konami, and so on. And I never really, I didn't even think about where these games were made. I was a kid, but sort of that sort of way of presenting games was so different than the games that we had that came from Britain, that came from the West. That and I think that's a thread that sort of continued to today, where you, at the very least, you have a game like Monster Hunter or a game like Pokemon, where it's a very particular style of building the world and the setting that could only really come from Japan.
Wait, did you play the Pokemon original and back then?
My little brother played it when I was...
Right.
So you needed someone to play together and just exchange.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. But it was a great game for sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's endured in a pretty much the format changes a little bit, but it's
pretty much the
very
same.
similar to the
It's the
original
same,
game.
yeah.
Sure.
Very
And
unique.
very, very successful.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm conscious that we're sort of starting to run out of time. So I want to very, very quickly ask you, Baiyon, in your opinion, as somebody who you're involved in the development of games, but also the visual side, also the music side, the sound side. You're somebody who does DJing and presents expresses yourself in a variety of different ways. And I feel like Japan is a very good place for these sort of multi-hyphenate creative people who, express themselves in so many different ways. And especially for like audiovisual content from, music to film, to, of course, video games. Do you think that Japan is like a place that's particularly accepting, or not even accepting, but a place where that kind of creative mind is fostered in some way?
Obviously, it's a tough situation still. It's my experience though, but I still see some boundaries in between the game industry to music and fashion. Anime, comics is really close to that game, but the music and fashion is way too far. And it's always really hard to talk about both things at the same time together. I don't know. What do you think? We decided working together and collaborating. So maybe I am something not the normal typical person for you too. Even you already live in Kyoto over 10 years.
Well, I think one element of that is Kyoto. So Kyoto is a very sort of easy to live in place. It's not too expensive, but it still has a thriving art scene, loads of universities, loads of young people.
Bunch of local business.
And lots of local businesses, not big franchises. A lot of the even the Michelin-star restaurants. Loads of Michelin-star restaurants. So it's like from small to expensive. There's just a bit of everything, and I think the fact that we managed to kind of find each other, I suppose, in Kyoto is one of Kyoto's strengths. Actually, so we had common friends. So there's a funny, not a joke, but like a common saying, but like you're in Kyoto, you quite often come across people who are just one connection apart from you, right? It's a very even though it's a large city. I mean, the city is about 2 million people. It's a pretty big city. Even in that city, you can come across people who know people that you know already, and the connections are very strong, and even connections to abroad or to Tokyo and stuff like that. I've got stories where I've met someone in Tokyo out of the blue, not at an event or anything like that, just we just got talking, and they have a brother who I've actually met before, 10 years earlier in Kyoto, but the connection was in Kyoto originally. And I'm not sure why, but maybe it's because there are in Kyoto there are clustered centers of creativity, and there's of where artists and galleries and where musicians hang out. The club that Baiyon quite often DJs at, Metro, is quite a cluster. Not in the COVID sense, but in a good sense. It's a hub. It's a hub, and from that hub, all these spokes go out, and then they hit other hubs in Kyoto still of creativity, and that's where you get all this interconnectivity going on, and where you get to meet a much wider range of people than you'd expect to meet in a city like that. And I think it's people with similar ways of thinking and similar,
So, but still, just there are some people that are working for few mediums, just like art or music or something.
Yeah.
Tell me what was special for me. What is the special? Is it style itself or just the characters or because I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it's just so hard to know
But
myself. So.
I think it's the Sekaikan.
Oh, okay.
I think Kyoto's Sekaikan is because it's a very old city, 2,000 years of history, and I think there's an atmosphere. So we'll use the atmosphere version of that word, but it's like it's kind of that feeling, and
because it's even like you said that it's a hub and it's just all spread out, it's all connected, but also thinking about from the maybe music perspective is that they're pretty ganko. They never ever change. So
there's a lot of there's a
super
lot of fussiness.
Dedicated.
Dedication.
It's very hard to communicate with them as well. Like I'm here, I'm not going there. You just come. That's a Kyoto style.
So maybe it's very individual. So maybe Kyoto has a very strong individuality.
Exactly.
And there's another old saying in Kyoto amongst the old school Kyoto people, the older people, and they say that once you're living in Kyoto, there's no real need to go to another city.
Right.
So a lot of people in Kyoto, they never even visit. I mean, it's a kind of snobby.
Why,
it's just a bit.
Why is there going to be the competitive?
No, it's not. It's not competitive. It's more like they're satisfied. It's just they're satisfied, but it's an interesting.
I feel that I'm half Osaka and I half Kyoto.
Right.
So I see
you're
kind of fighting each other.
Yes. Okay.
So I would say this. I don't have the specific answer for that could be a question. But it's going back to the GDC and the Beat Summit topic. We had talked about that. So if the Dylan doesn't have his company in Kyoto, I didn't have any opportunity. Maybe still, maybe
you may have found something, but maybe not that. Not because I mean it would have been different. It would have been different.
Can you imagine that I just gonna walk in at the big game company? It's impossible.
No,
I was not studied anything. Just wanted to. I have the passion, but it's just a local artist.
So I think there's one word that sums up a lot of this stuff that happens in Kyoto, and it's a sort of a magical element of Kyoto that I believe in from 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think it's synchronicity. I think there's a lot of synchronicity, and you like the word serendipity, right? So it's it's a similar thing where things kind of synchronize there, and I don't know why.
Right.
So there's no real direct we don't know why, but there's a sort of this really interesting side of the town where things come together and happen at the right time. Because if you hadn't spoken to me at that time,
that was the right.
That
time,
was the exact time.
You were looking for some inspiration too.
I was looking for an artistic title to launch as a third thing, and it was just the right timing.
Sure.
Yeah.
And,
what was that timing was for me? It's kind of interesting era for me. So that I was working for music and just fashion, it's cartoons for the magazine, and so many things at the same time. So I was doing all the things that in Kyoto. So it's the local if you compare to Tokyo, right? And I talked to the professor at the art university and he says that I don't understand what you're doing, but looks like you gotta go into Tokyo. So I was just like, what do you mean? I just don't get it.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yeah, right?
He thought you would have more opportunity in a place like
It's
Tokyo.
something like that. Something like that. So I was just like, I don't give a shit. Just like,
Whoa.
5 minutes, a panel discussion will take place on the
So to continue.
No, it's not for us.
Okay. Sorry, there's a loud announcement going on here in the venue, but maybe the people at home can't hear it too badly.
okay.
Please proceed to the next
So, what I'm talking about? Where would it be?
He told you to go to Tokyo.
He told you to go to Tokyo.
Told me that you got to go to Tokyo, but just I really don't understand that what his means, and also I wanted to show him just I can do it in local, And I started my own label, so they're just doing some design, and just everything is getting they're slightly bigger and bigger, step by step. And you might know, you definitely know, it's a magazine that's called Studio Boys.
Oh, Studio Voice.
Studio Boys. At the time, was a very well established RTR and fashion or games or subculture, all kinds of the things that the magazine.
All combined, yeah.
Yeah, the feature on that magazine is kind of plus on the time, like just it's a first step you be approaching to the Tokyo, the center of the culture and some medium and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that's not just my one goal, but I got the feature on the magazine finally just after a couple of years and working for that whole kind of stuff. So I was pretty happy, like, hey, so I think I can get more opportunity from Tokyo. I might get some bunch of emails to design or whatever, you know?
Right.
But that magazine that featured me, my graphics and the story and the interview, the main title was the end of the era of the CD.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's my first study Watson feature. So I worked on so many things and then just I made a bunch of CD and then just feature, but it's already end of the era. So right? So I thought, I think I need to find something new, but also that if I wanted to make something unique or something interesting, not just for like a normal music or graphics, and then just I thought that I need to release or make my music, but with something that to explain that how do you enjoy my music?
Right. Okay.
That was the video game.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it took a while to come up with an idea to video games might be the best, like so I still feel I'm making an album when I'm making a game. So, but
it's a place to put all your different elements of creativity into one.
Yeah.
Because games is a media that carries art and music. Many styles of expression.
Yes. It's kind of too intense and too much. If you think about making an album, you need effort to make a music album, but you can't compare to making games. That's too crazy. But still, it's a great medium.
Okay, well, I think we're pretty much out of time. In wrapping up, I mean, Japan is such an unusual place for video games and for many other things as well. Life in Japan is very different from anywhere else, but there are a lot of unique facets, and it's been really exciting the last few years to see the sort of the sort of second wind, the re-rise of Japanese games around the world. Even just this week while we've been here, there've been announcements about Silent Hill series and the Resident Evil series and Final Fantasy 16, and these have been the most talked about games of the last week or so. Or globally have all been coming out of Japan. It's exciting to see that, and to have the rise again of indie games coming from Japan and the games you guys make. It's been really exciting to see that, and hopefully really cool. People at home are inspired to go out and try some games. And of course, I will remind everyone, please do check out the Tomorrow Children Phoenix Edition, which is a game that I personally really love. It's great to see that back out there again and being
it's great. There's a big story behind it. So if anyone watching wants to check out the backstory about how we managed to relaunch that, definitely go and have a look on the.
You can read about it on IGN.
Exactly. You can. Exactly. It's a really good article. It's a very interesting story about making an exclusive game for Sony and then later on getting the rights to the game to release it yourself. So thank you very much for joining us here today. A lot of fun.
It's been great to chill out with you guys here at Gamescom Asia in Singapore. Everybody, there's still tons more programming to come up, so don't go anywhere. Stay right where you are, and we'll see you again next time. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.